And good morning or good afternoon, everybody. We are week 18 and our final week of the sober sessions, and we are so excited to have the lovely Bex Weller with us. So hi Bex, how are you?
Hi, very well, thank you. Hi guys.
Hi.
We're so grateful that you agreed to come on, and we can't wait for today. So shall we get straight in, everybody, or does anyone want to say how they are today? How are you, Dave? Are you all right? It's not feeling grumpy at all today, Dave?
I don't like to sound grumpy. I'm really up, and I've been up since 4 o'clock, so I'm on fire.
Looking good. Looking good there, Dave?
Is this a bit where you normally say you look shattered?
You don't. Honestly, look, I'm being nice.
I even bought these just in case. So.
Can I just tell you, he had them on and he was sat back when I first came on, like he was on holiday on a Sunday.
I look like one of those old Elvis impersonators, didn't I?
You did a bit.
Is it sunny again down south?
No, it's a bit manky today, to be honest.
Yeah, it's quite overcast today. Yeah.
Well, welcome.
What's it like up north?
Yeah.
Like this every day, chucking it down.
No,
These keep having it really sunny, Bex, and me and Alex, it's raining every single day where we are. It's just not on.
Yeah,
that's not cool. And it's summer, right?
Yeah, winter started in Manchester, and they're just at the height of summer in London and south of London. So feel a bit hard done by.
I bet.
Move to South London then.
Too expensive, Dave. I wouldn't pay what you lot pay to live. No way. How are you, William? Okay?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, makes a change getting up early for one of these, doesn't it?
What, for us or for you?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I think for us. And Lisa, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just walked the dog. I'm ready. I've got my smoothie, my water, my coffee, my questions.
You're going to need a wee in the middle. All right, we'll get started. So, Bex, at the beginning of your very first book, A Happier Hour, you open it with your final hangover. Now, I know that every one of us have been there, and I think that moment was what changed your life. Can you tell us about the moments the events that led up to you quitting drinking, and what finally made you kick the booze?
Absolutely. Yes. So I started off my first book talking about this moment that set off a chain reaction to everything else, because I woke up and I had one of those awful hangovers and I couldn't find my phone. And so I was sort of crawling around in the dark in the early morning light, trying to find this phone. And, I've lost many things over the years, but when I couldn't find it, I realized, okay, it's probably at the hotel that I'd been at with my parents the night before, because my family were flying out and we'd been at this airport hotel drinking with them, my husband and I, that is. And so I had to go to an early morning meeting. It was like 6 a.m. and I had an 8 a.m. meeting at work that I had to be at before I could go and retrieve my phone from this hotel. So I went to this early morning meeting, somehow drove myself to work when I probably shouldn't have, got into this meeting, no doubt reeking of booze, then came out and got in my car again and drove to this hotel and picked up my phone. And I was just mortified, even just picking it up from reception, because at this point I was 39 years old and I came out of the hotel and I got into my little old car and it was raining and it just had that musty smell. And I was just thinking, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? I mean, this kind of behavior, it might have been funny when I was in my 20s, but I was about to be 40 and I was like, what? Come on, pull yourself together, woman. And I messaged my love and I said to him, I don't want to go back to work. Like, I'm sitting in this car park. No one from work knows that I've just disappeared. And I just don't know what I'm doing with myself. And he was like, come meet me for lunch. And I went and met him at a cafe near his work for lunch. And he said to me, what if we just resign from our jobs tomorrow? And this was something that we'd been talking about for a while. It was just like such a pipe dream. I was working as a cost engineer at a global energy company, and he was working in IT in a green energy company. And he'd wanted to leave for a while and start his own graphic design and web development company. And I'd wanted to leave and become a health coach. But it was one of those things, you know, I used to talk about a lot of things when I was drinking, and I never put these things into practice. Like I never actually took the leap and actually did these things. They were just things that I talked about that disappeared in the early morning light. And I was like, are you serious? Like, should we really do this? And he was like, yes. So we wrote up our resignations that night. The next morning I went in and resigned, and I'd been with the company for 8 years and had no clients yet to be a health coach. Like I hadn't even started that. Like it was looking back now, it was such a flight of fancy. But it really set off a chain reaction, because the funny thing is that I'd been studying part-time because I had this little food blog, and I'd been having fun with just being creative and coming up with these different healthy recipes. And so when I discovered this health coaching school, I enrolled, and I'd been studying part-time for sort of 8 months or so, but I never believed that I would become a health coach. Like I always thought, well, it'll teach me some healthy things that I can talk about on my little blog, which was just a hobby. And to actually like leap into that, I thought, you know what, this is the answer to all of my problems, all of these binge drinking issues that I haven't been able to shake for the past 20 years. Now I will, because, well, first of all, I won't be in the corporate world anymore. I won't have these stressful month ends. I won't have colleagues asking me to drinks. I won't have functions to go to or any of these other things. I will be magically waking up in the morning and drinking green juice and doing yoga all day and helping my clients do the same. And so all these nutrition things that I put into place, that will just naturally spill over into the non-drinking. But of course, I was extremely naive in thinking that when you start a business that you would just be doing that one thing. Like I thought I would just be health coaching people all day, not thinking about, okay, what about doing your accounts? What about the legal part? What about all these other aspects that go into running a business? And because I was doing it all for the first time and had no idea what I was doing, it was quite scary as well, like quite confronting. And I kept thinking, you know, like, what have I done? Can I really do this? And then I started drinking more, but started drinking in a different way. Like before, it was always binge drinking on the weekends, going out with friends. And now it was drinking at home more, because I was quite scared of how I was going to like get this business running, how we were going to make rent each month, how I was going to prove that I wasn't going to be a failure at this thing. And so I would couch drink, I started calling it, you know, each night, just to calm my nerves. I believed I was, and to calm my anxiety, I was drinking throughout the week and so on. And it got to a point where I was sitting, I got some clients over the next few months, and I wish that I had stopped drinking then when I made the leap, but I think drinking rarely works like that. And I kept having these incidents where I would, drink way too much throughout the following 6 months. And I would wake up and just be like, again, what am I doing? I've got one foot in the new camp and one foot in the old camp. I don't want to let go of this old identity of me as this big party girl, but at the same time, I want this new thing. And the two just would not reconcile. And it was causing a lot of trouble with my partner, a lot of conflict, because he just had enough. He was like, pull yourself together. Like we went on, we took this big leap into this new world. Then why aren't we fully committed to this? You said that this is what you want. Why aren't you sort of diving in? And I couldn't really understand it either. And I remember I sat down with one of my beautiful clients, and we were on a Skype call, and she looked into my eyes and she said, you know, sometimes when I'm lonely, I drink more. And I said, well, that's okay. And I was just horrified the minute I said it, because I was like, what? It's not okay. I need to sort this out for once and for all, like for my client's sake and for my sake, and to really sit down and think about how I want the future to go and whether I want it to be the same as the past. And I had this awful epiphany that I would spend the rest of my life running from myself, because I thought, you know, my partner, he's now my husband, thankfully, but at the time he was wanting to me to stop drinking. And I was like, okay, well then I'll just break up with him and then I can do whatever I like. And when I realized, I was like, hang on, I'm choosing alcohol over a love that I have looked for my entire life. I'm choosing alcohol over this thing that I say I want, that I find very fulfilling. I'm choosing alcohol over this new life that I want. And I need to have a think about how that's actually going to go down. And I came across, when I was searching on the internet, as I think so many of us do, of like, what do I do now? I see that now that the denial has fallen away, and I see that this behavior is not sustainable. And I remember clicking around and I found these sober blogs, which blew my mind. I don't know why, because I had a recipe blog. Like, why did I think that no one would write about sobriety? I have no idea. But I came across these blogs and they were talking about the fact that they found sobriety had improved their lives, that it was this amazing thing, that this thing that I was so terrified of was actually the answer to the life that they had wanted. And at first I was like, that can't be true. Like, there's no way. And then I thought, but why would they lie? Why would they put that out there if it wasn't true? And I started to get this idea in my head of like, what if I gave it a shot? Like, what if I just tried sobriety for a little bit? Because God knows I've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. So like, what if I give this a chance and just not drink for a while and try to figure out how that could look or what that could be like? Because at the time I didn't know anyone who didn't drink. Like, I surrounded myself with drinkers because that was what I wanted to do. So how would I even create a life without alcohol? I had no idea, but I decided that I would just give it a shot. Like, I'd give it 3 months and see where the adventure took me.
It's just such an amazing story, and it is very much like all of ours, obviously different in terms of life events, but all conflict with your inner core beliefs. You know that you are meant for more, and yet you still continue to punish yourself daily, weekly, or whatever it is with the alcohol. We hear it so many times on here, don't we? People commenting, I'm back at day one, I don't know how to do it. It's constantly in a conflict.
It's very, what I find really interesting there is it's almost like, because what a lot of people do is their life isn't quite right, they're not happy with it, and they stop drinking, and then when they've built up a few, days or weeks of sobriety, they get their resilience back, they start to feel more confident, and then they change their life sometimes to what they want it to be. But you almost went the other way round. You kind of made a decision to like improve your life, carried on drinking for a bit, and then sort of leapfrogged over it then. But that's so. In those first few days or weeks of sobriety, how was it? I mean, what did you struggle with parts of it? Was there particular tips that you give people? What kept you going, and how did you find it? What was your experience of it?
It was so difficult because, I think it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, because it was so unknown. It was such foreign territory to me. I started drinking when I was 16, and I was a very shy and introverted girl. So it helped me to socialize. And I didn't realize that, like or not on a conscious level, because then I believed that, I'm this social butterfly and I love socializing. It's great. And not realizing that it was just the alcohol, and I had to always drink several drinks before I'd go to any party and that sort of thing. So to take that away, I was like, I think my biggest fear was that I would never have fun ever again, and I would never be fun. I'd never be invited anywhere. And the second thing that came up for me is like how to manage emotions as well, because I tend to be a quite sensitive creature. And I find this as well with the women that I help. So many of them talk about these two big fears of won't know how to have fun, and I won't know how to navigate my emotions. And it was such a learning experience every step of the way. And so much of it was like, I call growing pains, because it honestly felt like, stretching out of my skin. And when I read back the manuscript of my first book, I said to my husband, wow, I really cried a lot. He's like, yeah, you did. And so much of that, I remember as well, like bursting into tears several times. And he was like, what's wrong? Use your words. And I had no words. I could not articulate what was going on for me. Most of these emotions I'd never experienced before because I had never had to. I just easily shoved them down with the next drink. Anytime I felt anything that was unpleasant, well, a drink would take that away. And so to remove that kind of safety blanket, I felt so raw and exposed, so adrift in so many ways. And the things that really helped to steady myself were things like reading other people's books and blogs, listening to podcasts, the self-care principles that I learned throughout my health coaching studies, and also as you guys have the amazing business called the Sober Experiment, it was approaching it as an experiment as well. That really helped me to break it down into something that was less confronting, because I was like, I'm not going to say forever. I'm not going to say for the next decade. I'm just going to say, let's just look at this 3 months. And at first I had no idea if I could even do that because I'd never done that before. I'd done 10 days, but that was the extent of it. And so I was like, okay, well, let's try 30 days and then let's expand it out and then try to get to this 3 months. And just approaching it that way helped me to think, I'm not saying, it's this way or the highway. I'm just saying, let's see what I learn on this journey. And that just helped me to be like, I'm just going to see what I'm going to learn today. That's all.
What part did it become like, did you think this is it now? I'm not drinking again?
Gosh, that took a long time. And, even now I struggle to think about forever. I just sort of like to think I'm a non-drinker now. I still don't like to think about, but what if you're 85 and you decide that you want to drink? I find that really such a hard concept to grasp. But when I got to 3 months, I was like, let's just push that milepost out a little bit, that goalpost, that milestone, and let's try 6 months. And then I got to 6 months and I was like, hell yeah, this does still feel better. Let's try 9 months. And then I just kept moving it like that. In a way, it was kind of tricking myself into it. And I find that I need to do this when I go to the gym as well. I'm like, let's just go for 10 minutes. And then when I get there, I'm like, hey, this is actually fun. Like I can keep going.
Sounds like me with my coffee, that. I'll just have 20 today.
I think it's proof that we all have our own way. We find our own groove, don't we, when it comes to this? And quite often I say to people, like, when they say, I'm going to take it a day at a time right at the beginning, I often mention your 30-day experiment, because quite often they start on a Monday and they're all keen in that. But by the time it gets to Thursday, the voice is in the head going, well, do you know what? You've had 4 days without maybe one glass of wine. And if you go for the 30 days, quite often it removes that temptation at the weekend as well. And
yes.
That's what I did as well. I like you, Bex, I was sort of 3 months challenge. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I walked near my old local and I thought, where am I going to actually be in 3 months? I'm going to be back in that pub garden. And that's when I said, do you know what? That's it. I've done 3 weeks and whatever. That's it for me. It might not suit everyone else, but for me, it was a pivotal moment for me, because I knew it's almost like dry Jan, and at the end of it, you just blow it, don't you?
I was just going to say that, Dave, too. I was just going to say, it's like when women are pregnant and you go, oh, I'm not going to drink for 9 months, and you don't. And then you convince yourself that you can't possibly have a problem because you've done 9 months without it. And that was me through all of my pregnancies. Well, I don't have a problem because I do not drink when I'm pregnant. Well, of course you don't drink when you're pregnant, you stupid woman. That's what I've told you now. It doesn't mean that I didn't have a problem afterwards. I was just being compassionate and considerate to the baby. It was like, well, you convince yourself in your mind that, oh, if I can do a week, I mustn't have a problem. If I can do a month, I mustn't have a problem. And then you start to use that as an excuse to have one again.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing as well. Like I always say, if we don't need it, then why do we need it? You know, like it's sort of, people are like, oh, but I don't need it because I went for this amount of time without drinking. Well, then what do you need it for? Why do you need to go back to it?
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Dave, you're up.
Well, Sam's actually asked you my question.
Oh, sorry.
Ruined
it, everyone.
The question was what keeps you sober, so you've kind of answered that. Then we go to Lisa, and then I'll think of another one quickly.
I think that's still a really good question because, like, how long have you been sober now, Bex?
6 years and six. It was 6 years in March.
Wow.
Come on, Dave. Go on, Dave.
Go on, ask your question, Dave.
Stop. So, Bex, what keeps you sober?
So glad you asked, Dave. You know, I think the thing that I love most is that I don't have all the regrets and the shame and the battered self-esteem anymore. The more that I do things on the sober side to surprise myself and to feel proud of myself, the more I see this huge contrast between where I was and where I am now. And even like when I'm in conversations with people and they might say things that, you know, I was never very good with conflict resolution. I always ran from conflict and hid from it. I was terrible at it. And now I see, oh, okay, I'm slowly getting better at it. Like I have a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but I'm slowly getting better at these kinds of, I call them like a sort of emotional maturity skills of how to handle these things that other people seem to be able to handle. And, you know, they say that we get stuck at that age that we were when we first started drinking. And I definitely could see that 16-year-old still in the way that I approached conversations and relationships and the sort of shutting down or withholding affection when it came to conversations or conflict resolution. You know, these sorts of things that I start to see, oh, okay, I feel more like a grown-up, and that kind of feels nice. And it was not a second too soon since I'm now 45. So it's like, thank heavens I finally stopped being 16.
I'm like that, Bex. We say that, don't we? Like, I really adulted today. I did something really great up, and I'm like, I'm 40. You should be doing. My children say I've got a 21-year-old, and I'll be like, oh, I was the right woman today, and Beth's like, you are a woman. You're a mum, like. But you do go right back. It's so funny, isn't it? Bex, you speak in your book about having anxiety before, or hangxiety, as we like to call it. That's something that I massively relate to. It used to consume me. But why do you think stopping drinking has improved your mental health?
I think there's a few things. Like, first of all, I think there's so much headspace that is cleared up because no longer am I arguing with myself about whether to buy drinks or not. You know, I used to spend all of Friday like, well, I should get some drinks because what if some people come over tonight? Oh, but I said I wouldn't because I was going to have an alcohol-free night. Oh, but what if I do? Or I'll only have 3 drinks tonight, but then I'd have 7. You know, and I kept breaking these promises to myself, which just then, you know, if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? It damages your relationship not only with yourself but with everyone around you because you're in this place that you never feel safe. And also I think there was so much around not feeling anxiety around what people thought of me as well, because I used to experience a lot of blackouts. And so I would wake up the next morning thinking, what did I do? What did I say? What must I have looked like? I remember once years ago when I lived in London and I came into the office one Monday morning and all weekend I'd had that pit of the stomach anxiety thinking, I don't remember what the rest of the night on Friday or how I got home or any of this stuff. And I was sick about it all weekend, like, oh my gosh, what must my colleagues think of me? And I walked in on Monday morning and several of them just stood up and started this slow clap like this. And I was horrified, absolutely mortified. And one of my colleagues said to me, you turn into this completely different person. And there were so many times like that. There was so much anxiety around those kinds of things. And it was perpetuated because then, of course, I felt this anxiety. So the next time we would go, there would be an opportunity for drinking, I would guzzle it a little bit faster because I felt so scared about what they thought. So it was this sick cycle that just kept perpetuating itself. And to be free of all of that, I just feel so at peace now. I have no secrets. There's nothing going to come out of the closet and scare me because I've owned it all, and I've done the incredibly difficult work of processing it all and sort of trudging through it. So I just feel this massive relief and this peace of mind that, you know, I am who I am now. And you know, like I'm totally, my behavior in the past doesn't define who I am. And I'm learning more every day, but in a way that is, you know, fulfilling and uplifting. I'm moving forward rather than constantly tying myself to the past with this anxiety cycle.
You brought that right back for me then, but I could feel that in the pit of my stomach, and walking through while they're clapping. That's like, oh my God. I'm so grateful. I love these sessions because it just, however awful it feels inside, it just makes you feel so grateful that we've all made that decision to be sober. I made my own words up, but I've got my own dictionary.
Where in London did you live, Bex?
I lived in Finsbury Park, and then I moved to Willesden Green. Is that right?
Yeah.
This is
yeah,
where Gabe told you that he'd like to meet you for coffee next time.
Yeah.
Love that, Dave. Let's do it.
Yeah. I've come out to Australia, actually. Was the weather good down in London, was it? 'Cause it generally...
Oh, all right, Dave, get off.
There were about 5 days every year that it was good.
So obviously, with your core values in line with your behaviours, you know, in terms of your mental health, what about your physical health? Have you seen any improvements there?
I have, and you know, mostly the physical health stuff is because I found new joy in like actually being physical. So going to the gym and going hiking. Like I remember just a couple of years ago, we were planning a trip to Norway, and my love said, you know, we should go hiking when we're there. And I've got a friend there who is a total fitness bunny, and she was like, yes, you have to come hiking. And I thought, I'm going to die. Like she does all these marathons and things. And I was like, I'm not in that league at all. And I started training for it because I thought, well, okay, well, let me see. I didn't think I would like sobriety, and hey presto, I do. So like, well, let's go see if I like hiking. And oh my God, I absolutely fell in love with it. And you know, there's the physical part of you have more quality of life in feeling stronger and healthier. And obviously we get mornings back when we're sober. We don't spend, you know, the day in bed. And I used to have terrible hangovers where I would throw up the entire next day. So, you know, thankfully that is a thing of the past. But I think the thing I get out of physical exercise the most is the mental shift as well, because I can tend to live in my head a lot, and I hear this from so many sober people as well, is that we can tend to go round and round in our heads. So anything that gets me into my body, it alleviates those sort of emotions and helps me to process. But it also, you know, the endorphins get pumping and you feel happier and more uplifted.
That's really good.
We can see.
Sorry, I'm writing this down. No, I can't.
We can see it in the
through
mirror.
Yeah.
It's true.
By the way, I've got pants on, but they're the same colour as skin. So if you can see them through the mirror, I'm not naked. I promise. Look.
Very true. I am. Oh look. No, I understand what you mean there, Bex, because last year I did the London to Paris bike ride. So I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning and train on the turbo trainer. And it really set me up for the day because it was an hour of real solid exercise. Go in and have a shower, And it just was really brilliant for my mental health doing that.
Makes such a difference, doesn't it? I didn't expect that part. Like in the past, I'd only ever exercised because I was like, oh, I want to be thinner. But now it's more about being strong physically, but mentally as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just cleaned my lens. I actually thought my eyes were funny, but it was there was something on my lens.
It's aged you by 10 years. So, William, you do a lot of running as well, don't you?
Me, yeah, I do. I went this morning actually, but yeah, I find it brilliant. It sets you up for the day. I think it gets the endorphins running, and this is what I try to say to people: you feel better than when you were drinking. Forget the hangovers when you're actually sat there drinking. Supposedly the best part of it. That's what you can't say it enough. And when you're stuck in that cycle, you can't quite believe it.
Yeah.
But you fly. You go way beyond where you were when you were drinking. Even supposedly that magical time when you're out with your friends having those first few drinks. You feel so much better the whole time. And again, going back to what you were saying, your physical health feeds into your mental health. When you're feeling physically well and strong, your mental health is up there as well. And you may have all kinds of issues and problems, but the only way you can get to your tip top is to do that.
It's funny you say that, because I put on a bit of weight over lockdown. We've had this conversation, haven't we, over the last few weeks and that, and that's made me feel really, really down. And there's times I thought, well, actually, Dave, you've given up alcohol. Do you know what I mean? Give yourself a bit of a break here. So next week, if we do these steps, you'll have to give me we're doing this thing next week, hopefully, Bex, climbing.
The week after. We keep telling him that. He's going next week.
I'll be doing my own then, will I?
The pre-training.
Seriously though, like it's when you feel physically fit and on top of your game, it can be so good for you, especially for me, first thing in the morning, really, really set me up for the day.
Even just doing something on that day that you've not done, obviously I've been out of exercise for a while, and just the last 2 weeks I've just been getting up and using my kettlebell to do some squats and doing a few kind of ab exercises. Just even if it's 10-15 minutes, you just think, yes, I've done something. It just lifts you mentally anyway. So we say this to people all the time, and they say, well, I don't, I'm overweight, or I don't really enjoy running. It doesn't have to be those things. Just move a little bit, within your capabilities, and you're going to feel better.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's just get out for a walk. Anything you can do, if you're doing something for a few minutes, that's what you need to do. Yeah.
Beck said something then about like going out and doing it not to lose weight, and I think that's what happened with me. It was such a different mindset of, instead of trying to run or do all this exercise to lose weight, do it because it makes you feel good. I think when you kind of associate it with losing weight, you start to get disappointed if the weight's not coming off, and then it's easier to give up and what have you. But if you're actually doing it because it makes you feel nice and you're doing things that you enjoy, like I remember running, I don't really like it that much, and I was forcing myself to do this running. I'm like, why am I doing it? But walking, for me, I absolutely love, and I can walk for miles and miles. And the same with the bike. I've just bought a bike, and I've promised myself that I'm not going to ride this bike to lose weight. I'm going to do it because it's enjoyable. So when people whiz past me, I'm not bothered. I'm not going to try and catch up. This is me talking myself into it.
Which is a natural competitive streak coming out, because normally she'd be like, right, I'm after you.
I would, but I think it's so important to have that mindset of, this is enjoyable.
Another really important point is what about doing it first thing in the morning set me up for the day, but for people that are starting out giving up drink, it's when the cravings come in do other things like this, and you can put your headphones in and listen to some podcasts or some music and get out. Then it's by the time you come back you feel really good in yourself, and the cravings are past, and you can have a bath, shower and have an early night, and it's really important for that side of it as well.
The other thing as well with exercising, particularly in the morning, you then sleep better. And that's one of the big things with being sober, is just the feeling of waking up, having had a good night's sleep. And a lot of the time when people stop drinking, there's a period where their sleep's still really messed up. And doing a bit of exercise can help you get back into a decent sleep cycle sooner rather than later.
I was just going to say, sort of similar. We had a lady who, she was doing all the right things. She'd stayed off the drink and she was exercising before bed. And she was saying, we eventually got to that bit, but she said her anxiety was through the roof. And she was lying awake because she'd been exercising before bed. And we just said, switch it, exercise in the morning. And all of a sudden she's healed, you know, like she had a raised heart in bed. Yeah.
I've just got a vision of everybody waking up this early in the UK, seeing us all bright and breezy awake and flicking over. Because like, I used to hate people. Well, I didn't, but I'd be so jealous of people. You know, when you've got a hangover and you see somebody run past and you're like, you kind of want to trip them up, but you also really want to be that person as well, don't you?
You know,
I'd definitely flick something over like this.
So when I ran to the park this morning, I just got into the park and there was a group of people walking out the park drinking, and they were dressed up. They were like youngsters. They were dressed up from last night. They've obviously just sat there all night drinking. And
I bet they hated you, William.
Oh dear.
Youngsters. It's definitely done. Oh, they were youngsters.
Were they hoodlums? Hoodlums?
Yeah, beatniks they were. Beatniks. Yeah.
Scallywags were still out from the night before.
Oh dear, we've all been there, haven't we? All been there.
I mean,
Go on, Dave.
Come on, Dave, you're up again.
We have to keep reminding questions.
No, nobody's asked your question this time. There's no excuse.
Hey. Mine went right at the end. Where can people find you? But I mean,
No, it isn't.
What? Where is
Oh,
it?
can someone ask Dave's question?
Right, that's something with that. We do get asked this a lot in the group. Whether did you just give up, or have you ever tried to moderate? So, have you ever tried to moderate?
Yeah. There we go. Yes, I tried to moderate for 20 years.
Wow.
You know, I mean, just because I was binge drinking, and most often I was drinking just on the weekends, and during the week I wouldn't drink so much, or I wouldn't drink often. Then it was just this constantly thing of like, you don't have to go crazy on the weekends. Like, why can't you just have 3 drinks like you say you're going to, or even 4, or even 5? You know, why does it have to be, 12? So I constantly would try this thing, and I would make all these rules around my drinking, as we all have done, right? Of like, I'll only drink 3 days a week, or I'll only drink on this day or that day. And nothing ever worked. And this was part of the reason that when I found these sober blogs, I was so intrigued, because I was like, well, I've tried moderation and God knows that didn't get me anywhere. So I've never tried sobriety. Like, this is something that I have never given the light of day, most of all because the whole concept was terrifying to me. And it was such a revelation to discover the relief and the freedom that came from removing all of those rules around my drinking, and instead focusing on what could sobriety give me. Like, it was, instead of thinking deprivation and punishment, I was like, well, but what about sobriety? What if that's better? Like, what could I discover about myself, and what could I create, and what would I have time and energy and headspace for in this new world? And so much of that as well was realizing that it was never the alcohol itself that I craved either. It was always something underlying. And in the early days of sobriety, I would see people, for example, drinking on Facebook, and I would feel really triggered. And I realized it's not the alcohol I want, it's the connection that I want. What's underneath this craving? Okay, if it's connection that I want, like, I can easily call a girlfriend and say, do you want to come for a smoothie date tomorrow, or for a walk around the park, instead of feeling like I needed alcohol to connect. So this was a long, slow process of sort of figuring out what was underneath that. So yeah, for me, moderation definitely had never worked. And so I was quite happy and relieved to try something completely different.
You know,
Back to my question.
in both your books, Bex, is like real moments, you know, where you think, oh, that's amazing. Like in your second book, where you talk about the photo shoot, and then you go into your spa, and there's so many like really uplifting moments. And I know it's not part of the content, but if anybody's watching and they haven't read Beck's books, please do, because they're so uplifting. And particularly the first one for me, I read that really early on and could relate to so much of it. And one bit I want you to tell us about is that first time that you were preparing to, and you did, get onto stage to talk publicly, because it really was, I could feel your anxiety, I could feel your pain.
Oh my gosh, so much anxiety. I was terrified. And because it was the first real speaking event on stage anyway, and it was held in this nightclub of all places, a nightclub that I had many blackouts in over the years when I was a teenager. And one of those memories, as I walked into the door of this nightclub sober and about to give this talk, and I'm trying to find which stage I'm on, I clocked the ladies' bathrooms, and I thought, I remember waking up one morning in one of those stalls, and I came out just to sort of find, like, I woke up as in I thought I was just resting or something, but I obviously passed out. And I came out to find my friends, to discover the front doors of the club wide open, the sunlight streaming in, the cleaners all cleaning up. And I just had that awful walk of shame home that would become a very common feature throughout the next 20 years, unfortunately. And just to come back to this same venue and to give the talk there, it was just so bizarre, but also felt such like the universe had underlined the meaning of this nightclub of like, now you're coming back in here. And the reason it was at a nightclub is because it was held by a couple of a vegan couple who were also into punk rock. And so they obviously liked the venue, but it was a Sunday afternoon to give this talk, and there was sort of sunlight coming in, and you could still sort of smell the night before in this nightclub as well, that sort of, a little bit of stale beer, a little bit of vomit on the carpet, all these kinds of smells. And I was like, this is so weird to do this talk here, but all right, they wanted me to talk about it. And I was sitting in the audience beforehand, just trying to calm myself and smelling my essential oils and spilling them all over myself, while I tried to soothe my anxiety. And I got on stage, and once I started talking about the topic, I sort of just felt myself, it felt liberating. It felt liberating to actually acknowledge it in public. And also I could see just through the darkness a couple of people in the audience who were locked eyes with me and who were nodding along. And that gave me courage to keep talking about it. And at the end, they had asked me to do a Q&A, but by the time I got to the end, I was spent. I was like, I've used up all of my possible, energy and stuff. Like, I just need to get out of here. And I just leapt off the stage, and the sound guy was looking at me like, where did she go? And I didn't really know that anyone would want to ask any questions anyway, but I wandered up to the back of the venue and to find my husband, and all these people came up, and they were like, they said all the things that people have said to me when I've shared my story online before as well. Like, oh my gosh, that was just like you took the words out of my diary, and I resonated with every single one. I've been experiencing all of these things that I haven't told anyone about. And, every time I think we take this leap of vulnerability and authenticity, we help others to feel less alone. They certainly helped me to feel less alone when they're nodding along and when they came up to talk to me afterwards. And that's why I love like what you guys are doing here and all the people who are in the sober space, because without those sober blogs, I wouldn't have had any role models or any idea of what it could even look like. And the more we talk about this stuff, the more we remove the stigma and the shame and the secrets, and we help each other to understand that, we're all in this together.
It's so nice, isn't it, when you decide to stop drinking and then find people online or a blog or a book, like you say, it's just so important to have that, and that feeling of, because it can be such a lonely place, I think, in the beginning. You've got all this time, you've surrounded yourself with all these people that drink. So it can just be so lonely, I think, in the beginning. So it's just dead good to have these things. I really like it. A big part of your sobriety, Bex, has been an improvement on your creativity. So can you tell us a little bit about that and all the things that you've achieved since being sober? In fact, this should have been an earlier question. It's been 6 years. It's going to be a lot. Alex can organise these terribly today.
Right, can I just say, no criticisms, please. I did this with a migraine while you were all in bed.
Actually, who did them with you?
Lisa did.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you were out enjoying yourself. Go on. How dare you, Dave?
But yeah, I think creativity is something that, you know, we always say this, but boredom is quite, it's a part of the journey, isn't it? And that kind of boosts your creativity. So yeah, give us some of the stuff that you've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, at the time that I stopped drinking, I was doing health coaching for women, helping them to have more energy. And I was doing business coaching for other health coaches as well. I'd been hired by the health coaching college, IIN, that I'd studied at via correspondence in New York to provide coaching to Australian and New Zealand coaches. So I was doing these other things and I had no intention of going into the sober coaching space. But the more I shared my story, the more people reached out and asked me to share that. And so I created an online program called Sexy Sobriety, and I was helping women through that. And so many of these beautiful women would say to me, but they'd see me now and think that I looked pretty well adjusted, and they would be like, but you never struggled with this thing that I'm struggling with, or you never struggled with that. And I was like, I did. I promise you, I went through all of these things. I spent days and weeks crying. It was so hard in the beginning, but it gets easier. And so that was why I had this idea with my first book, A Happier Hour, to share what those first few months were like. Just again, to let them know that they weren't alone, and that we all go through this, that these growing pains are very normal, but there is so much joy that exists on the other side of it. And when I started this writing process, I'd always loved writing, and I'd always bought into this idea of, or this fantasy of, writers as big drinkers. And so I always fancied myself like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a writer, but I'm a big drinker. And so like it all goes hand in hand. And in reality, the drinking kept me from exploring my creativity, because so much of my headspace was taken up by all this drinking and all this shame around my drinking. And so to clear all of that away, I suddenly could write in a whole new way, and found it so therapeutic. And at first, you know, I found that creativity at first, it was something to do during that witching hour of, you know, usually like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., I'd want to pour a drink. And so I would think, what if I color coded the books on my bookshelf? Or what if I, you know, made some cookies or something? You know, what if I did something creative and to keep me from having a drink? Or to go, you know, just to ride out that craving. And I found it really, really fun to do that. And then also when I started going to events that would trigger me, like if I was at a party and I was thinking, oh my God, this is so hard. It's only 9:30 and I have to stay for another hour or two. Of course, now I understand that I really didn't have to stay, but in the beginning I thought I did. And I would think, okay, what if I, you know, again, like bake cookies, or what if I potter around in the garden, or what if I paint something in the morning? You know, that could be something that I looked forward to. It just helped me to get through those difficult evenings, just to help me to see, oh, but there's this sort of new fun kind of thing on the other side. And then I started to realize how much creativity helped me to process emotions as well. There's so much that is written and said about that flow state, that sort of state that we used to get into when we were kids. You know, if they're building Lego, or they're drawing, or they're doing something and they're completely immersed in it, and you're like, you know, come on, dinner time or something, they don't hear you. They're just like in the zone, totally being themselves and having this amazing self-expression. And as adults, we pile on these responsibilities and these obligations, and we forget that we need that as well. We need to be in that flow state. And the more I started to experience that, I found that so much anxiety falls away when we're in that state. So all of a sudden I had this way to alleviate anxiety, to a way to escape it that didn't involve drinking. Instead, I could get into this flow state of this zone of creativity and just feel utter relief there, because I wasn't worried about the future. I wasn't worried about what people were thinking about me. I was just having the joyous moment of creating. And I started to feel more self-esteem because of that. Like, first of all, there was the joy of not experiencing that anxiety and remembering who I truly am. But also then there was the, look what I made. Like, I made something, you know, I'm not useless. I can actually do something. And that was such a contrast to the way I felt about myself when I was drinking. So, you know, creativity just really helped me with early sobriety, and still now in so many ways.
What's next for you? Obviously, you've got your book, so you've got another book or any other projects in the pipeline?
Yes. I'm actually, you know, there's been so many, obviously with the whole pandemic, you know, there's been a big about face in what so many people's new concerns are and things like that. And I've found that I've received so many questions about early sobriety and stuff like this. So I'm just like sort of brainstorming a few things at the moment, like that I'm not sure where they'll take me, but I just feel like there's going to be something exciting there in the future. So I definitely feel more books coming.
Oh, that's brilliant. Before you ask your question, Dave, just to give you some preparation time, we've got 2 on Facebook answering them, Bex.
Sorry?
Are you okay to take 2 questions from Facebook?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we've got one from Stacey. She said, so I've done the I'll not drink for 30 days thing. Then when I get there, I always think I've had a nice break, I can have 1 drink. So now I'm trying the I'm not drinking again approach, and this feels so much easier. Am I setting myself up for failure?
And, you know, I think what Dave was saying before was that we all have slightly different approaches to this, different things that work for us. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we don't know what works for us until we try it and find that it doesn't. For me, the focusing on 30 days first, then saying 3 months, then 6 months, then 9 months, it helped me to keep moving that goalpost. For others, they also say, they say, I'm never going to drink again. And that helps them to just draw that line in the sand and say, nope, I'm done with that. And I'm completely, I'm going to move on. So I think it's just, a very personal thing where we need to try these things and figure them out. I mean, is that what you guys have found as well in your experience?
Yeah, I think it's a really subjective process, and what works for one doesn't work for everybody, and you've just got to try until you find your groove and what's right for you. And we've learned a lot from each other, I think, on here, haven't we? You know, like at the beginning of these sessions only 18 weeks ago, I was still telling some people that I'm not going to drink, and I didn't really have a reason. And then William taught me that if you just say I don't feel like one, well, what can somebody say? Yeah, you do. That's what I say. No, I don't feel like drinking, and that's that. And it's so easy. So I think you can learn a lot from taking on so many different people's opinions, and something will fit, something will work for you. That's where our experiment came from, isn't it, Lisa? You know, what worked for us, but we make that very clear. This is what worked for us. We're not doctors, we're not psychologists, but this worked for us. So see it as your own experiment and give it a go.
Beck said that earlier about their experiment, and that is absolutely what worked for me. It was just kind of seeing who Lisa was and how she dealt with things without a drink. So I knew that I had a real social anxiety. So I'd kind of see, right, how am I going to do this now? I've got to go to this party. I wonder what I'll be like tonight, and just seeing it like that all the time. I still do things like that now. I wonder how I'll react to that.
Can I just say, Lisa? Sorry, Lisa. Yeah? It actually looks like you haven't got anything on in the mirror.
Oh.
Look.
Bex pretty much described her social anxiety in the same way you've described yours, I thought, Lisa. That sounded like you.
Yeah, I think that's why I could feel it so much in the pit of my chest. I was like, no, don't bring that back.
We've got one more question from Pam. I'm on my longest sober streak of 84 days. Well done, Pam. And I love the changes in me that sobriety has brought me, but not sure how to change my routines of normal life, as nothing else has changed apart from the changes inside. Is this something I should be working on? So is she asking there, should she be changing other aspects of her life to make it easier?
Good question, because I suppose it depends on what the other routines are. I found over time, because at first I kept going to the same social events. I was very, very social, and I thought that having a big group of friends was what was making me happy. I thought that it was sort of, that I couldn't be without that. And then I started to discover that when I would meet a friend one-on-one and we would sit down and we would like have a real deep and meaningful chat, and I could look into her eyes and I would walk away from those meetings feeling so fulfilled and so lit up. And I would be like, oh, okay, I think I am starting to recognize and embrace my actual introverted heart, as opposed to what I thought I was this big social butterfly. And so I had to sort of start to change my life, because if I had have kept going to all of those big functions and events and doing things the same way, I would have felt out of alignment with myself, out of integrity. And so, as I've discovered more about myself, I've had to change things of like, oh, okay, I thought that I found that fun, but actually I don't. I find this fun. So I think it comes down to, what those routines are.
Yeah.
We all find that, don't we? A lot of people that we've had on the sessions have all said that they originally thought they were quite a social butterfly or a bit of a party animal, and they prided themselves in it. And actually, like, if I'd have heard this at the beginning of sobriety, I'd have thought, God, they're so boring, these sober people. But actually sitting in on a Friday night with a nice cup of tea. I love teapots, me, and different cups. That's my thing. I really like it. But that's my Friday night. I really enjoy it. And then to be up and about all weekend. But I think it's something that a lot of people that do choose sober have in common, that they drink to be extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just don't.
Might go.
Go on, Dave. You're up.
Right. Sorry, Bex. So, if you come to London, do you want to go for coffee?
I would love to, Dave.
Hey! There you go. No, actually, it was, so where can people find you?
You can find me at sexysobriety.com or at bexweller.com.
Amazing.
And you're on Instagram?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at bexweller and Facebook as well. You can find me there.
We'll post those links as well with this after, won't we?
I know we're coming to an end, but I just wanted to say thanks to William and Simon, because this is kind of our last one of the series, isn't it? We got the Mindful Drinking Festival thing. But I wanted to really thank you, Alex and Lisa, for all the hard work you've done, because you've really held it together. Us boys have been a little bit
boyish
in certain aspects. But honestly, from my heart, I really wanted to thank you both for what you've done, for bringing these all together, because I think these sessions have helped so many people, and we all enjoyed doing it, and I think you're both fantastic, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. We love you all too. We really genuinely do. It's just been such a fantastic 18 weeks, and to be continued, perhaps.
And what a lovely guest to round it off with, eh? I think you've been absolutely fantastic, and we'll have coffee.
We will.
With all the others that I've asked. Sorry, I didn't mean.
Honestly though, Bex, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate your time, and we all agree, I think, that it's a fantastic end to our season. So thank you
so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, it's been
I
lovely.
know that, Bex, that we've all been excited to have you on, but especially Alex has been fangirling in the background about you a little bit. She's
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Now you're going to make me blush.
You know what she has, honestly. I know that she's been really super, super duper excited to have you on and like, and yeah.
Oh.
I'm not even embarrassed by it.
Oh. I just think it's been
Thank
lovely.
you.
So thank you so much. And I hope everyone else has found it helpful today.
Yeah.
I think they will have done. We've covered a lot there.
Yeah. And everyone who's watching and watches this later, don't forget next week we're at 4 p.m. in the Mindful Drinking Festival live, and we really, really hope that we've helped you. Carry on posting in the group. We're still here. We're just not doing the lives for a little while. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and be
Thank you, guys.
18 weeks.
Great. And if you're really missing us, our podcast starts again at the beginning of August.
Yeah, good plug, Lisa, good plug.
And buy our Co-Explained 1 and 2 Williams book is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, hey.
I'm going to say bye again. Bye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye.